Hey YouTube, it's courtesan, and today I have a bit of a different deck tech. And if you're familiar with my channel, I tend to focus on more casual, or what I like to call kitchen table style decks, which isn't really focusing on like meta or anything, and it typically is on like the more budget side. And it's just easier for newer players to pick up those decks that I've done, deck techs for. This one, however, is my take on a competitive or more streamlined, more serious style deck. And I will say it isn't fully based on my ideas. This has some ideas taken from Ira, who's one of the sorcery guys who has plenty of videos playing this competitive Deathspeaker list. There's a couple of little tweaks in here that I did, but mainly it's based off of like things that I have seen on YouTube, and then my own little iteration or take based on, the type of cards that I like seeing and that I like playing. So with the competitive deck, I do have a 10 card sideboard. We'll kind of put that off to the side, put the main deck to the side, the atlas. So I'll go over the avatar for those that don't know. This is a Deathspeaker deck, usual 20 health, 1 attack. Tap, player, draw sight. And the thing that makes this avatar, unique and good is that you may cast 1 dead minion each turn, and for 0 if you're on death's door, and whenever you summon a minion this way, banish it. This deck gets incredibly powerful when you're on death's door, so your opponent is going to try to not keep you there for that long. But if you can get the death's door for a couple turns, you're probably just going to win the game. And for newer players out there, if you don't know like the purpose of this, because you're thinking, oh, you just cast it and immediately, dies. Well, it gets banished. It's a little different than dying. But anything that has a Genesis ability will trigger when you cast it off of Deathspeaker. It triggers when you play it just normally too. But essentially, he's going to grant you double Genesis abilities on all of your minions after they have died. So we'll start off by going through the deck. And one of my personal favorite cards of this game so far is Death Dealer. It is a 7 cost, 2 fire threshold, 4 power, unique minion. Simply says Genesis, kill all the minions. So kind of like a Wrath of God type of effect. And this card is insane in this deck. It's a great late game finisher, good stabilizer, very good control piece. Next, I am running 1 copy of Courtesan. It's a 5 cost, 2 threshold, 0 power, unique, and it says Genesis. During their next turn, each player is controlled by the previous one. So the idea of this card is once your opponent is on death's door, you play this card and you hopefully kill them by either making them attack into, like making their avatar attack into one of your minions, or burning them with their own burn spells. This is just a good way to kind of seal the deal once they're at death's door. And to round off the fire minions, I am playing 4 Vile Imp. This card is fantastic and one of the best minions in the game, in my personal opinion. 2 cost, 1 threshold, 2 power. Genesis may deal 2 damage to target adjacent unit, so I can hit avatars. Ideally, though, you're going to be using this to kill like soldier tokens or like apprentice wizards and stuff. This good, board presence-y, cheap minions. And it isn't an ordinary card, so we can't run 4 of them. I have 1 copy of Highland Princess. I should mention this is also a 4-color deck, so there's a lot of stuff going on in here. But a Highland Princess is a 2 cost, 2 threshold, 1 power, unique minion with Genesis. Search your spellbook for an artifact that costs 1 or less. Reveal it, put it in your hand. This might be one of the best cards in the deck for the things that it tutors up. Let me make some more room here. But we have all 4 cores and philosopher stone in this deck that this can search up. So being able to play this, and then there's ways to return it to our hand to replay it or recast it from the graveyard. It's a great way for us to ramp up our mana and get all of our thresholds. Next, I have 2 copies of Grandmaster Wizard. 6 cost, 2 threshold, 0 power. It's a spellcaster, and simply Genesis, draw 3 spells. This is another one of the better minions in the game. It's great card draw. Now, the idea behind this deck is you're going to draw an absurd amount of cards. In fact, there's been games where I've almost decked myself because of how much card draw you generate from this deck. And then The idea is you just outbeat your opponent because you have answers to everything, you have more resources, and that's typically how you want to play the game and control the game. Next, we have 4 copies of Apprentice Wizard. 3 cost, 1 threshold, 1 power, spellcaster, simple, Genesis, draw a spell. So being able to just, again, draw a bunch of cards, get some board presence, do some ping damage on sites, pretty key. And I have 1 copy of wraetannis Titan, 7 cost, 2 threshold, 6 power, Genesis, strike each enemy here. So if their avatar is on one of your sites, or one of your sites is completely dogpiled by minions, you can play a wraetannis Titan. It's like a mini, and I say like mini death dealer. Wipe the site completely. It's also a 6 power minion, which is the biggest minion in the deck. It's pretty good, just aggressive card all in general. And then I have 4 copies of land Surveyor. It's very similar to Apprentice Wizard. 2 cost, 1 threshold, 1 power, Genesis, draw site. So it's just more card draw, except you're getting your sites. And this deck is very hungry on thresholds and mana. These are very key to draw into those things. And now one of the reasons, and I'd say the main reason why we are playing blue, and from what I saw Ira doing with this, is we have 3 copies of Fey Changling. 3 cost, 1 threshold, 1 power. It may be summoned to any site which is insanely powerful. And it says Genesis, you may return target minion here to its owner's hand. You can use this defensively and return your opponent's minions to their hand to kind of slow down your strategy. You can also return any of your Genesis stuff back to your hand to then replay it for added value. So like Highland Princess, returning Death Dealer is absolutely insane. And there's a game where I wrathed the board 6 times with Death Dealer because of Fey Changeling. It's kind of gross. It is actually like legit kind of gross on how crazy this card is in this deck. And being a Genesis ability, you can recycle it, so on and so forth. Next is the Philosopher's Stone of the Cores. And again, if you're new to this game, you don't know what these are. If you're familiar with Magic, these are kind of like moxes. They cost 1 to play instead of 0, but essentially they're the same thing. They provide the threshold, they provide a mana, and I have 1 for each element. And this is the expensive part of the deck, and typically I keep these cards, all 5 of these, out of my decks because this is a lot of money, and not everyone was lucky enough to open them. I sure as hell wasn't. I only opened these 2. I recently traded for these 2. Thank you to the person who traded these to me. You know who you are, and you are much appreciated. And then I had to buy my Philosopher's Stone. Luckily, I got 2 of them for a very good deal. Well, I should say my girlfriend did, but it's the only reason why I have these. We got lucky. And then for Philosopher's Stone, if you don't know what this is, it's a 1 cost, and the first spell of each element cast by the bearer each turn. So you'd put all of these on your avatar, obviously. It reduces the cost by 1. So for the first spell of each color you play, the cost is reduced by 1. So it's kind of like one of these, but almost better. More colors you play, the more powerful this card gets. And since we're all 4 colors, this card's insane. And that's it for all of the cards that go onto the board. Well, nah, I lied. There's Atlantian Fate. I'll include this too. And this is another reason why we're playing blue, and it's one of the best board wipe abilities in the game as well. It is a 5 cost, 2 threshold. It is a unique aura. And text is kind of small here, but affected non-ordinary sites are flooded. They are water sites, only provide water threshold, lose all other abilities. So it basically blanks a bunch of sites. And then it has Genesis, submerge all minions and artifacts to top affected sites. So auras you play, typically, you play in the center of 4 other sites. And when you play this, it'll just kill everything that doesn't have submerge on those 4 sites. Very, very good. In fact, I'll go ahead and show another card that we're playing 1 copy of that is very similar, which is Earthquake. 5 cost, 2 threshold. Rearrange sites within a 2x2 square, or region, carrying along everything in normal size, and then burrow all minions and artifacts on those sites. So, again, any minions without burrow, this will kill in a 4-site location. And if you happen to hit their avatar with it, and they have a bunch of these cards on them, it'll bury all the artifacts as well. So, for whatever that may be worth, or if they're running around with Flame Sword and stuff. Next, we have one copy of Browse. One cost, 3 air threshold. It's a little difficult to get that 3 air, but I'll go over the Atlas deck next. And it simply says, look at your next 7 spells, put 1 of them in your hand and the rest in the bottom of your spellbook in any order. This is somewhat like a bad demonic tutor. This card's fantastic though, and it is one of the most powerful spells in the game so far. So being able to dig 7 cards is pretty dang deep. Like that you're probably going to find whatever it is you're looking for, more than likely. For one of the better removal spells in this deck, if my camera would focus, which it's not, there we go. Immolation. It is a 1 cost, 3 fire threshold, deals 7 damage to target nearby minion. Basically, this kills everything that's problematic for you, except for 8 power minions, which there aren't really a whole lot running around in the competitive meta. This is going to kill more than likely everything that you're going to come in contact with. And then another bomb card for competitive play. And it's almost like, I don't know, this is kind of like a feel-bad card in my opinion. But it is Infiltrate. It's a 4 cost, 1 threshold. It doesn't require the caster to be nearby or anything. It just says gain control of target enemy minion until it deals damage. And tap it, it gains stealth. So if your opponent plays a really big minion that you're having problems with, it doesn't matter where you are in the realm, you just play Infiltrate, you steal it, and it gains stealth so they can't target it. And basically, you just keep that minion where it is until your opponent's on death's door, and then you chase them down with their own minion. This card is deceptively good. I definitely undervalued the power of this card when first getting into the game. And then next, it's Burn and more finishers. So one of my favorite cards in the game is a Grapple Shot. 3 cost, 1 air threshold. An ally shoots a projectile. If it hits a unit, the ally is dragged to that location and may strike the unit when it arrives. So this is a way of attacking without triggering an attack. It's just a free strike. So the minion, if it's untapped, will fly in, get a free strike, and then it can tap to attack again. Or not again, but a tap to attack. So getting like double damage. Grapple Shot is a great finisher. Like being able to shoot a projectile, and we have a bunch of spellcasters. Yeah, it's going to be a little difficult for your opponent to hide from Grapple Shot when they're on death's door, which is kind of the idea behind this card, and why I'm only running 2 of them. We have 2 firebolts for the same reason. 2 cost, 1 fire threshold. Simply says shoot 3 projectiles in the same direction, 1 at a time. Each deals 1 damage. So again, your opponent's on death's door. Good finisher. If they're trying to save themselves with some soldier tokens, this can potentially kill the soldier tokens and then kill the avatar or whatever you may need. And yeah, we only need 2 of them because again, it's there. These 4 cards are there when our opponent's on death's door. And to round out the deck, I have 4 copies of Lightning Bolt, 2 cost, 1 air threshold, deal 3 damage to a random unit at target location. So you could hit their avatar with this. Ideally, though, I play these in here to hit the weaker stuff off the board to kind of clean up their board, make sure I'm not going to get overran with like ping damage on my sights. But, I mean, if they're on death's door and they have nothing protecting them, yeah, Lightning Bolt will just kill them. And it does not require the caster to be nearby. You just do it. Similar to, like, Infiltrate. And so that is the main deck. Again, we're mainly air and fire, and we splash water and earth for some, what I would consider some very, very key cards. And I'll go over the Atlas deck next to show how we go about doing that without, running into threshold problems. So here's the Atlas deck. Start things off. This is Geistwood. This card is absolutely insane, especially when we kill, like have minions die on the site. It says Genesis abilities here also trigger on Deathrite, or their Deathrite abilities. I read that weird. Anyway, anything with Genesis will trigger its Genesis ability again when it dies here. So like drawing 3 cards, all that other cool stuff. Yeah, it's a way to like double up your effects. Next is Mirror Realm. This is another card that's seen in the competitive meta quite a bit. It's one of the best sites in the game. Simply copies another nearby site. So ideally, you would want to copy like color out of space to fix all your thresholds. But yeah, being able to just copy any site's pretty good. And yeah, color out of space, another site that's played in most competitive decks. It's one of the best sites in the game. Provides one of every threshold, and it provides no mana or threshold if not adjacent to the void. So the way you would do that, if you have it in your opening hand, play your first site, play a second site, and then have this be your third site, and always keep this open. And if you're trying to lock it off, play another site here, and then you can play a site here, and then you're pretty much just golden from there. That's typically how I would play this card anywhere, or try to, you know. And next, it is just a bunch of dual sites. And if, again, you're new to this game, familiar to Magic, these are exactly the same as dual lands, all of these. So the main ones I have, I'm just going to do it like this. I have 3 copies of Ruin. It is the Air Fire. I have 3 copies of Windmill. It is the Air Earth. 3 copies of Steppe. It is the Fire Earth. 3 copies of Oasis, Water Fire. 3 copies of Lighthouse, which is air and water, or water, fire, yeah, whatever. And then the site that we need the least of, because they're the colors that we're splashing, and we're pretty covered on the rest of them, and to make it an even 20 cards, is 2 Aqueduct. And I've played quite a few games with this. I have had very, very little issue getting into enough mana and enough thresholds to play my cards. With all of the cores and, again, the sites and just knowing what to mulligan for, you're going to get your thresholds. It's never been an issue, except playing against the deck that focuses on roots of Yggdrasil, which blows everything up and then sinkholes. That is actually the main weakness to this deck, is site destruction and blowing up your artifacts. Other than that, this deck is pretty resilient to most stuff. Now, I'll go over the sideboard. Typically, though, sideboards don't really matter. I mean, it's almost pointless to show them off in a deck tech. Build your sideboard for the meta that you are going against. This one is just a very well-rounded one. If I were playing in an event, I would maybe custom tailor it to the people that are playing versus, compared to the decks that they or may not be playing on YouTube and stuff. But these are just all-around good sideboard cards, and I'll explain each of them. So we are playing 1 copy of Mage Slayer, 3 cost, 1 threshold, 2 power, and it says Genesis, kill target spellcaster minion nearby. It's pretty self-explanatory. If they're playing a deck with a lot of spellcasters and they need those spellcasters to arc their spells for whatever it is that they're doing, run Mage Slayer. And again, Deathspeaker is adding 2 of these because you'll get double this ability when he dies. So yeah, 1 Mage Slayer, good Genesis minion, so on and so forth. Go over both of these at the same time because they're pretty similar. They're both 3 cost, 2 threshold, 1 fire, 1 water, a boil and extinguish. And they're both ordinary, so you could run 4 of each in your 10-card sideboard if you really wanted to. But 1 destroys all minions occupying target water site up to 2 steps away. 2 steps away is pretty good. And the other one banishes all fire minions and fire auras occupying target site up to 2 steps away. So if your opponent's playing a lot of water cards, bring in boil. If they're playing a lot of fire cards, bring in extinguish. Pretty self-explanatory. Again, most of these cards I'm only running 1 copy of because the deck has so much card draw. You're not going to know what to do with the amount of cards you have in your hand. So you can run singletons and have a bunch of silver bullets in your sideboard. These 3 are somewhat pretty similar. There's mortality with some crap on the sleeve. There we go. 2 cost, 1 threshold, kill all mortar minions at target location up to 2 steps away. Again, 2 steps away is really nice, gives you more range. Ideally, this is for the Avatar Earth decks that run a lot of mortals, and if they end up playing Midland Army and such, it's a good answer to that card. Exorcism is also great, and I'm going to take this out because the art on this card looks great foil. And again, if you're new to this game, all foils are full art on the back of the card. They're also embossed silver text and stuff. But 2 cost, 1 threshold, banish all demon and undead minions at target location up to 2 steps away. So very similar to mortality. It's for the void walkie type stuff. This kind of slows them down a little bit. And then we have also 1 copy of Unravel, 2 cost, 1 threshold, destroy all artifacts and undead minions at target location, again, up to 2 steps away. So it's just a good way to blow up all the artifacts. And that is exactly why we are playing for disenchant. Included the air one because air is the main, or I guess fire is. This is like one of our main thresholds that we play in the deck. So it's easier to play this over, I think there's an earth version that's exactly the same. But it's a 2 cost, air threshold, destroy all auras and artifacts at target location, again, up to 2 steps away. You're going to bring this in to blow up your opponent's cores in Philosopher Stone, or if they're running stuff like the sword or whatnot, or the champion's crown or whatever the heck it's called. Anyway, that is the sideboard. Again, custom tailor this to the meta that you're playing against, but this is like a rough idea of what a 10-card sideboard could look like for this game. And yeah, that's the deck tech. You know, this video went a little longer than I expected, but I wanted to explain exactly what every card does and more or less why I am running them in here. In the few games that I have played with this, it's actually been more than a few, but the games I have played with this, especially when you're pairing it up against like more casual-based decks, it can be pretty oppressive. It's not going to guarantee win every single game. There are a lot of kitchen table type decks that can get there. That's another thing that I love about this game. But if you're trying to go for like the top tier competitive, you know, meta level, this is more or less the kind of stuff you're gonna see. Like you're going to see the expensive crap that every other person on YouTube is telling you to go buy and to play and so on. I'm not really into that, but I felt it was important to at least show one competitive deck on my channel, and it is with an avatar that I deeply enjoy playing. So anyway, that's the deck. If you have any comments or questions or thoughts or anything I can do to change this deck up, let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later. See ya.